on page 122, and I feel like I've read a lot, but in this book, which is like 500 pages, I've read so much yet so little. Hello there, welcome to Nightingale Reviews. Once again, I am Bailey, and today I'm doing another Top 5 Wednesday post. And this week's topic is, I don't even know, favorite books outside of your comfort zone.
Zone. It'd be easier if I had two hands. Zone.
I know what you're thinking. You're like, oh my gosh, Bailey, 2 videos in 1 week. You must be sick. And let me assure you, I'm not. Nope, I'm not. I'm all good. So let's just get into this. This isn't going well already. Also, I own 4 of these 5 books, but they're in my basement in like Staples boxes because I can't fit them on my shelves. And I really don't want to go downstairs and root through the boxes in my basement to try to find the right books because I'm lazy. So please enjoy these beautiful digital photos brought to you by the internet. So the first book that I have for you is the first book that I talked about in my last video, First and Then by Emma Mills. This book is just everything I wanted a book that's contemporary. I read tons and tons of contemporary, and I don't know why, because I just keep torturing myself while doing it, but usually once a year, I find a book that makes it all worth it. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I keep torturing myself, so I can find this one book. And let me tell you, it's been worth it. This book follows a senior girl named Devin, and her younger cousin Foster comes to live with her. This is the story of her sort of finding where she fits into his life and he fits into hers, and her accepting him. Devin, the only senior in her PE class except one person, and this person is Ezra. Hunkalunga burnin' love. Very fine specimen.
Yeah, it's awkward to say to a camera.
This guy is the star quarterback. He's going places, colleges want him everywhere, and he is a jerk face. And so she really despises him, and he is in her PE class along with her awkward cousin Foster, and they just kind of then show up everywhere in her life. And she's like, oh darn it. But this book, literally, it's such a beautiful story, and the character development and the friendships that grow in this book are absolutely flawless. It's just such a very beautiful, beautiful story, and the inside of it is even more beautiful than the cover. And look at that cover. Literally, I'm not a football person at all. I've never been to a football game. I don't watch football. I don't need to hear about football. But this book made me enjoy football for the first time. And I'm like, what is this? Not that I've ever followed that up with any other interest in football, but just that book. But that's okay. People have said this is a Jane Austen meets Friday Night Lights. I've never read Jane Austen or seen Friday Night Lights, but I'm gonna take their word for it. If you're looking for a story about friendship and finding yourself and loving yourself and accepting those around you and trying to understand that this is just an amazing contemporary. It's so good, folks. I can't explain why it's so good. It just gives you the feels. It gives you the feels right in the heart. Literally, I want an Ezra. Can I have an Ezra? Universe, send me an Ezra. And this watch is so bulky in my arm. The second book that I want to talk about is The Thing About Jellyfish by Allie Benjamin, I believe. And let me get it up on Goodreads. The Thing About Jellyfish is, I believe, a New York Times bestseller, and it's also a middle grade contemporary. When I venture into middle grade, it's very iffy for me. Usually I don't read middle grade contemporary because I feel like it's just very watered down so that younger audiences can relate to it more so, of course, than older audiences. But when I got a signed arc of this book, I was super duper excited about it, so I'm like, you know, I gotta give this book a try. And I did, and it just blew my little mind. Like, blow. This book follows a young girl named Susie whose best friend has recently drowned, and she can't really accept this, so she decides that what had to have killed her friend was this rare form of jellyfish that is practically invisible. She sets out to try and prove this, even if it means that she's going to travel around the world without the consent of her parents. Susie is written so that you can understand the basics of a human being while also getting so much more from them. Susie, she recently had a big fight with her friend that had died, and so they've been apart for a really long time, and the fact that her friend died before she had any chance of reconciling with them was really upsetting to her, and so she needed to find a way to reconcile with what happened. Also, I really liked how in the story story. There was LGBTQ representation because her older brother was gay. And it wasn't like it was this huge thing like, oh my gosh, there was all this trouble in the family because of it. It was just something subtle, and it was in there, and it was placed like it was no big deal. And I really, really appreciated this because a lot of books that have those characters in it, they're going through a lot in their life. And in this book, I just really loved how it was just accepted, and it was just appreciated, and he was loved, and there was no problem with him being who he was. And for that, Ms. Benjamin, I thank you. And so this is really a book about accepting and grieving, and it was just a very beautiful, beautiful story. And what I really loved about it is even though it was written for a younger audience, it still really hits you in the feels.
Feels. It's what you want to be hit by when you read a book.
And this book did that, folks. This book did that. It's so profound for a middle grade novel, and if you haven't read it, you really, really should, especially if you're kind of hesitant about middle grade books. This is definitely one I would put high up on my list to recommend to people. The third book that I would like to talk about is the first book in the Pathfinder series, The Wood's Edge by Laurie Benton, and this book is a historical fiction novel, which also happens to be Christian fiction, and I don't read historical fiction novels because every single time I do, I despise it, I can never finish it, I hate it. There was one that I really, really liked, and that was the Wollstonecraft Detective Agency Book 1, The Case of the Missing Moonstone.
I digress, I'm sorry.
Wood's Edge is a story that follows a man in the late 1750s. He's part of a group in Fort William Henry, and the day that the fort falls, his wife is giving birth, but his child unfortunately dies extremely quickly because something went wrong after he was born, and his wife has no idea of this. She's asleep, and so he's distraught. He takes the baby out, and then he sees this Indian woman who's taken captured and put into the fort, and she has also recently given birth to twins. One baby looks like an Indian, one baby looks white. So he switches the white babies and takes the Indian woman's, and his wife knows none of the difference. And the Indian woman at first doesn't know the difference, but then of course she figures it out. And so this book follows these two children and this white family and both this Indian family as they grow up, and it's all about the distraught feeling that the Indian family feels, as well as Reginald, the man who stole the baby, feels internally, and how it's tearing him up that he took somebody else's child away from them. He also saved another child, which was a girl, and it's them growing up, and she meets her brother's Indian twin, unbeknownst to her that that is his twin. The descriptions in this novel were just amazing. They were beautiful, and I've never really enjoyed a historical novel, but this one was really beautiful and had such amazing messages in it about forgiveness and fighting for what you believe in and trying to come and forgive yourself. And can we just sit here and appreciate this cover? This has an extremely beautiful cover, and it has even more beautiful spine. Like for your bookshelf, it's like, wow, I want that just for its spine. And I would show you its spine, but once again, it's in the basement, and
I'd rather not go looking for that right now.
the fourth book that we're going to discuss is the first book in the Divine Cities series, and it's called The City of Stairs by Robert Jackson Bennett. And this book I got a long time ago for a review, and it is a fantasy novel. I really don't read high fantasy novels usually. I just read like maybe urban fantasy or like young adult fantasy, but nothing like too up there because I'm always afraid I'm not going to understand it, and I'm going to be sitting there reading this book. I'm like, what are you talking about? But this book, it's actually marketed as urban fantasy, but to me, it does not feel like urban fantasy at all. I'd say it's like just a step below high fantasy, in my opinion. But that is why I extremely loved it, because it's not too much all at once, and it doesn't feel like it's not enough at once. If you would like to know, The City of Stairs focuses on, it's like Bulakov or Bulakov, I don't really know, but that's what the city's called. And all these gods used to be in it and control. A lot of them were very gruesome, and they oppressed a lot of people, and eventually the oppressed people find a way to kill the gods. As one man goes out and massacres the gods, and what's left of their major city is now no longer a major city. When these gods, they called the divines, they disappeared, everything that they helped create, most of it disappeared with them. Now, mention of these divines and all of the magical objects are outlawed, and no one's really allowed to know about them, no one's allowed to talk about them, and it's just this whole big secret thing now that everyone knows about, but they're not allowed to mention or they'll get killed.
Yay!
Someone come up my driveway and hit tire tracks. And then our main protagonist shows up on the scene and she is told to go investigate the certain area because what we think of the gods being dead and all of their magical items being locked away may not be so true after all. It's a very intricate series and it has a lot of mysteries within mysteries that the author does really well of presenting and tying up and just giving it his all in this story, and it really drew me in. Like, I hung on to every word in that book. I loved how intelligent the characters were and how they worked through all these different things.
Awesomeness after awesomeness after awesomeness. If you want awesomeness soup, you read this book.
Just Robert Jackson Bennett has a capturing effect to his writing and just really knows how to write a story and do it well. And what I also really loved about this book was not only did it deal with all these magical elements, it also dealt with cultural distress and losing all that you originally knew. Because not everyone that the gods had under the control were oppressed. Some of them really worshipped the gods, and not being allowed to do that anymore really made them go, what are we supposed to do now? And it was original, and I highly recommend it, folks. I highly recommend it. And look at this beautiful cover. What is with all of these beautiful covers? The final book that I'd like to talk about is Eat an Empty One by G.R. Paskoff, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And this book I actually won in a Goodreads giveaway several years ago, and I'm not that big on sci-fi, to be honest. I kind of got this and I didn't think I was going to win it, and when I did I was like, oh, okay, let's see how this goes. It follows a dystopic sort of world in the beginning. It's really falling to pieces and there's not much hope left for humanity. Then they find out and get information back that there is a planet similar to Earth that may be able to be lived upon by us. Then this man, Nathaniel Hawke, is told that he has to go out and be the head of this mission. He's like, okay, alright. Something previously went wrong for Nathaniel, and he's hoping that this mission will be a mission that will put him back in good standings and redeem him. And they gets on the ship and they're going, and then stuff starts to go wrong immediately right off the bat. There is a murderer on board, running free, running rampant, killing people. So they're trying to figure that out. Then they get to the planet and they're just exploring the planet, and all this awesome stuff happens. The authors, he really got to explore humanity. The good and the bad, the beautiful, the ugly. That is why I really love the science fiction book. It wasn't all about space. It was about, at the core of it, about humanity and how far someone was willing to go to do what they believe is right. So this is a really big book, and it may take a while to get into, because it took me a while to get into. But once I did get into it, I was like, wow, I actually like this. I actually like science fiction. And since then, I've only read about 2 science fiction novels. But that's okay, because I'm going to ease my way into this genre. Ease my way, like ease into that type of way, not and these motions of like these cars going with my hands. It's not very a good representation of what I'm trying to say, but that I didn't even know this had these strings right here. If you guys have any recommendations about books that you really didn't think you'd enjoy but you did, please leave them down below. I'd love to hear about them. Also, if you have any fun books in any of the genres that I mentioned that you enjoyed, feel free to tell me about them, because I am looking for more books in these genres. That's it for today. Thank you for watching, guys, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye!
I was walking down Overway Street, somebody.
Weird, because I know someone's there listening and judging. Hunka hunka lunka.